in a flash. That's Ticket Dash. Ticket Dash, gonna make you smile when you save some cash. That's Ticket Dash. Ticket Dash. TicketDash.com.
Good morning. Welcome to the Sports Bash pre-show presented by TicketBash.com. Phone number to call on the show is 516-430-4286. On the show today, we'll be joined by Dr. James PACI from ORLIN and COHEN Orthopedic Group. We'll also give away 2 tickets for the Mets against the Marlins June 11th at Citi Field. Good morning. I'm Peter Schwartz, joined as always by Vinny Tickets and WizKid Vinny, who'll be coming along with the update in just a moment. Before we get to that, I'm going to do for Pete's take on this today as well. But we've gotten way too used to implosions by Yankees closer Clay Holmes. And while he has been having an all-star season, no question about it, we saw the vintage implosion from Clay Holmes last night in the 9th inning, and that was just something that came out of nowhere considering the season he's had. And I bring up the question right off the bat, want to hear from Yankee fans at 516-430-4286. Do you trust Clay Holmes, Vinny, to be a world championship closer for the Yankees?
Absolutely.
You do?
I bleed blue and white. You know that.
But you trust Clay Holmes?
Yeah. Listen, it's a bump in the road, and just like every sport and every competition, nothing it goes up in a straight line. There will always only be one Mariano Rivera. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately,
we're spoiled.
Unfortunately for Yankee fans, we always use Mariano as a benchmark. He has become a benchmark for closers in the Yankee organization. So in this case, I'm confident. I think he's got great mechanics, and I'm not really concerned at all about having him as our closer.
Let's find out more about the Yankee game last night, everything else in sports. It's time for the Sports Bash Flash, brought to you by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage, where every customer is considered family. The Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Mention Sports Bash, get a free dessert with your meal. And here with the Flash, WizKid Vinny.
Thanks, Peter. Last night, the Liberty continued their strong start for the season with a 73-64 win against the Seattle Storm, improving to 4-0 on their season. Tonight at TD Garden, the Boston Celtics will host the Indiana Pacers in Game 1 in the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. Tip-off starts at 8 p.m. on ESPN. Tomorrow night will be Game 1 of the NHL Eastern Conference Finals as the Rangers will face off against the Florida Panthers in MSG. In the Bronx, the Yankees squandered a 4-1 lead against the Seattle Mariners and had 2 men on base with Ty France at the plate.
Here we go.
Soundbite.
Let's get to that soundbite, and here it comes right now.
Okay, let's see what.
All right, let's go on to the Mets.
Let's see what. Okay, so we'll get to that in a bit. But in Progressive Field, the Mets fell to the Cleveland Guardians 3-1. And after the game, pitcher Tyler McGill spoke with the media about his return back to the lineup.
Yeah, he's on hold right now. So
okay, go ahead.
So essentially what happened with the Yankees was they lost 5-4 against the Mariners, and they'll do Game 2 tomorrow. And Tyler McGill spoke to the media, and Game 2 of the Mets series against the Guardians will be tonight at 6:10. And that's your Sports Bash Flash with me, WizKid Vinny Laspinuso.
All right, Vinny, thanks so much. Well, the Mets are in a bad way.
Uh-oh.
They are in a bad way.
Uh-oh. Watch out for ticket sales.
Yeah. What is the... In the Mets' worst in the last 10 years, what is the lowest that you've seen a ticket for a Mets game going on the secondary market?
$1.
$1.
$1.
And are we going to approach that?
Maybe it'll go to 75 cents this year.
We're going to welcome in our radio audience for Sports Bash coming up in just a few moments. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. Sports Bash brought to you by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage, by Falcone Law Firm. If you need to speak to an attorney, call them at 631-6074-LAW. That's 631-607-4 4529 by the Marty Lyons Foundation, the official charity of Sports Bash Media. Visit their website at martylyonsfoundation.org. And by Collaborate Studios, a content marketing production facility, your one-stop shop for marketing content from podcast rooms to photography studios. It's the perfect place to showcase your business. For more information, call them at 516-509-8277. Good morning, everyone. I'm Peter Schwartz, joined by Vinny Tickets, and we'll be joined a little bit later for This Day in Sports History by Whiz Kid Vinny. But first of all, good morning, Vinny. How are you?
Fantastic. How are you, Peter?
Outstanding, and lots to talk about in the local world of sports, and a lot of those topics of conversation center around injuries, players that have been injured, players that are coming back from injuries, and thought it'd be a great time to check in with a friend of the program. He is Dr. James PACI from ORLIN and COHEN Orthopedic Group, and he is joining us here on Sports Bash. Dr. PACI, it's Peter and Vinny. How are you today?
Morning, gentlemen. How's it going? Appreciate you having me on this morning.
Absolutely, and thanks for taking a few minutes out of your busy schedule. So I feel like last time we spoke to you, it was the worst news possible when Aaron Rodgers was injured with that Achilles injury. And let's start this interview off on a much better note about Aaron Rodgers, because obviously everything has been good news since then. He's back. He's a full participant in Jets offseason training. Just to go back to where he was when he got hurt to where he is now, how amazed are you by his progress? Because it sure sounded like if the Jets were in a playoff position, he might have come back last year.
You know, he really rehabbed tremendously and did a great job following the protocols after surgery to put himself in the position to do that. As we talked about last time, the new technologies that we have surgically certainly allow us to push the envelope a little bit, but when you're working with a professional athlete, they're certainly a little bit different. They have different motivations, different drive, and a different team around them to get them back in ideal form as quickly as possible. So certainly the best of all worlds came together to get him in that position, and now he's had an entire offseason to prepare for the fall.
You know, it's funny, when he was going through that rehab and we started to hear all of the progress he was making, and people are just like, I can't believe he's actually, doing this, where we're seeing him on TV, walking around the sideline and doing some jogging and stuff like that. And at that time, I was going to physical therapy for an injury I had, and my physical therapist was very, very concerned that other patients who were going through the same rehab, the Achilles injury, were going to demand that they have the same results that Aaron Rodgers had. Is his situation going to be a game changer for how people return from an Achilles injury?
You know, I certainly think it will push the envelope slightly, but again, the average patient can get the physical therapy 2, maybe 3 times a week, is limited by their insurance company's coverage in terms of the amount of therapy and rehab that they get. You're a professional athlete. You have a full-time athletic training staff, physical therapists on call, and facilities at your beck and call at all hours of the day. It's a lot easier for a professional athlete to turn things around faster simply because of access, and that's all they have to do. He doesn't have another day job that he has to get to 9 to 5 and then do his rehab around it.
Yeah. Well, we certainly hope, at least me as a Jets fan, have to hope to see number 8 on the field a little bit more than 4 plays this coming season, because it has been way too long. I really want to see the Jets win, and I really, really hope that Aaron Rodgers just takes care of himself and can get through training camp, and hopefully we see him more than 4 plays. We're talking to Dr. James PACI from ORLIN and COHEN Orthopedic Group here on Sports Bash, presented by Ticketbash.com. Let me switch gears to current injuries that we're concerned about here in New York sports, and we just came off the Knicks losing in Game 7 to the Indiana Pacers, and there's 2 injuries that Knicks fans are going to look at during the offseason and keep their fingers crossed that these guys will be able to be, big participants next year. Jalen Brunson suffered a broken hand in Game 7 on Sunday, and OG Anunoby returned a little bit earlier than we thought, but you can tell right he was not the same with that hamstring injury. Let's start with Brunson first. Broken hand. He's a basketball player. He now has the whole offseason to get ready for training camp. Any reason to believe, in your mind, in your expertise, that Brunson would not be ready to participate at the beginning of next year?
Obviously, a lot of this is speculation. not knowing the exact nature of his injury. But assuming that he has a metacarpal fracture, which would be the most common fracture in the hand, and that it's aligned properly and non-displaced or minimally displaced, that should heal routinely, usually needs to be immobilized in a cast or a splint for about 4 weeks, and then really just work on range of motion to get his motion back. No reason to believe that that bone shouldn't heal. If it's displaced, if there's too much angulation, sometimes these are surgical, but again, that's a rare situation. And really, he has plenty of time to turn things around for next season, so there's no reason to expect that to affect him longer term.
So, Doctor, when they talk about a broken hand, like I'm looking at my hand as I'm on the air here, and I look at my hand, and there's just so many bones in my hand.
That you hear a lot over and over, and nagging injuries, and one of those types of injuries is the hamstring, and that's what OG Anunoby suffered earlier on in the Pacers series. Tried to come back on Sunday with Tom Thibodeau, the head coach, I thought did the right thing, saw he was not moving well, got him out of the game early because they didn't want to ruin anything for next season. When you look at the hamstring injury, and again, there's different grades of it, I would imagine. What's the treatment like? What's the rehab process to try and make sure that hamstring injury doesn't pop up again somewhere down the road?
So hamstring injuries are difficult, and it really depends on where the injury occurs. A proximal hamstring avulsion can be a surgical issue that needs to be repaired. The players around a little bit faster with hamstring injuries. Some good data from the guys down in Pittsburgh showing that you can get guys back in about half the time using PRP injections as an adjunct to healing. Beyond that, it's physical therapy and it's rehabilitation. And the biggest concern about returning too soon from a hamstring injury is increasing risk for injuring something else. So potentially an ACL tear or an ankle injury or something like that, because you have weakness in the hamstring. And I think it was commendable and very smart to pull him at that point when it was clear he was not functioning properly.
So are you saying that if you have a hamstring injury and you're not treating it properly, it could lead
you at Orlin and Cohen, what's your advice to parents as we head now into the summer months of keeping their kids in shape and getting them ready for what's about to lie ahead, whether they're going into travel ball over the summer and getting ready for fall sports?
So, Pete, the biggest thing we worry about is volume. These kids are coming out of a high school season, and especially if they're in a playoff mode right now with increased volume coming out of the spring and then rolling right into the summer. So really working on biomechanical maintenance, making sure that they're stretching and keeping their shoulder and hip range of motion, and keeping an eye on those pitch counts to make sure that they're not overdoing it. This time of year, I see way too many kids coming in with medial elbow pain and Tommy John injuries, which we certainly like to avoid. And, the vast majority of them can be avoided if you follow the pitch count guidelines and get sufficient rest, and you make sure that you're stretching after you throw, especially.
All right, Dr. Pacey, Dr. James Pacey from Orlin and Cohen Orthopedic. Thanks for joining us here on Sports Bash. We'll catch you again at some point here in the near future. Dr. Pacey from Orlin and Cohen. It's Peter Schwartz, Vinny Ticket Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. We'll be back with more right after this. We are still live on Facebook and YouTube as we await the return of our radio audience, and some interesting things that Dr. Pacey had to say, Vinny, and I threw that in there at the end because obviously, again, you're getting into travel baseball now, and parents are always concerned about their kids staying healthy, and that's important. The one word he said there was volume. You could have way too much. And then sometimes you see these travel situations, you're playing 3 and 4 games in one day. That's a lot of baseball for kids.
Yeah, I think two things that I think a lot of kids veer away from is, number one is stretching, right? I know as a young athlete, an aspiring young athlete, stretching was always something I didn't do enough of, number one, and hydration. And we'll touch on it at another time. Do you know that in softball, there is no pitch count? There is no inning requirement. There's zero requirement.
Is that right?
Absolutely. So you could pitch a girl on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. She could throw 120 or 130 pitches. And as much as they say the motion is a natural motion, it doesn't stress the shoulder, these girls are out there pitching every day.
That's unbelievable. I would never have thought that. We are going to welcome back our radio audience right now in about 10 seconds. Welcome back to Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. 516-430-4286 is the number to call to join the show. The Yankees implosion last night is on the table. We can still do some Knicks post-mortem. The Rangers getting set for Game 1 against the Panthers in the Eastern Conference Final Wednesday night at Madison Square Garden. But as we come back here on Sports Bash, we welcome back Vinny Tickets, and now we welcome in WizKid Vinny with This Day in Sports History.
Indeed, we are, Peter. And, we talked about 2 other Islanders Stanley Cup, but I would argue this one in 1981, their second of their 4, was their best team overall. They didn't have a President's Trophy at that time, but they had the best record of the regular season. They had like 119 points or something. They were the 1 seed, of course, going in, and they defeated the Minnesota North Stars in 5 games. That's right, the North Stars. Before they became the Dallas Stars, they were the Minnesota North Stars, and they moved, and that's, of course, how he got the Minnesota Wild in the end. But anyway, Butch Goring, legendary Butch Goring, wore 91 before someone else took it. But fortunately, 91 is retired.
There's only 191 in Islanders history.
Well,
and it's Butch Goring.
The retired numbers would agree with you there.
Yes.
And he was absolutely...
We don't discuss the former captain on this show.
Well, unlike him, Butch Goring won the Conn Smythe. And
Yeah.
why did he win the Conn Smythe? Well, during that entire postseason run, he had 10 goals, 5 of which were in the Stanley Cup, and the 2 of which were in Game 5. He also led the league that year in terms of shorthanded points. So that means 2 goals, 2 assists. And the Islanders as a whole, as a team, had a record number of 9 shorthanded goals that season.
Is Butch Goring a Hall of Famer?
He's an Islanders Hall of Famer. He's
I
definitely.
didn't ask you if he was an Islanders Hall of Famer. I asked you if he's a hockey because the Hockey Hall of Fame has asked Butch Goring on numerous occasions. He wore a very distinctive helmet.
Oh, yeah.
During his career, and he still puts it on TV from time to time. But they have asked for that helmet for display in the Hockey Hall of Fame, and he has said over and over again, it comes as a package. If his helmet goes to the Hall of Fame, he wants to go to the Hall of Fame. It's an interesting argument, and there's arguments on both sides of it.
I would probably say, considering how significant he was for those Islanders teams, and again, 4 straight Stanley Cup, 5 appearances, I say, sure, why not? I don't have any issue with that. And it took them too long to retire his number for the Islanders. I'm so happy they did it back when I was in Hofstra.
Well, I think the Islanders retired his number for the totality of his contributions, not just as a player, but he wound up coaching the Islanders, and now he's been a longtime broadcaster. And I think I look at Butch Goring the same way I look at the Mets retiring Keith Hernandez's number.
Yeah.
Because Keith Hernandez really only played a short time for the Mets, but it's what he's done throughout his entire run with the Mets that I think warranted that number 17 up in the top of Citi Field.
Yeah, and you're talking about those people that I would call full career cases. Keith Hernandez would fit that for baseball. I think if you were to put in Phil Simms, thinking about his playing career, his entire broadcasting career, I think that would deserve a bronze bust. And Butch Goring, if you factor in his time as a player, of course, Conn Smythe winner, and being a part of the team for a long time, yeah, absolutely, I have no problem with it.
Speaking of the Mets, it is time for our Mets ticket giveaway, courtesy of ticketbash.com.
Absolutely. June 11th, we will be giving away 2 tickets. That's 2 tickets for the New York Mets on June 11th, and they will be in the lower level.
And as you can see on our screen, here's what you have to do. Text your name and the word Mets to 516-430-4286. That's 516-430-4286. Text your name and the word Mets, and we will pick a winner at random, and you will be going to see the Mets and the Marlins on June 11th. Sports Bash Media Facebook or Instagram page. You can also send it privately to my socials, which is Peter Schwartz Sports on Instagram, or also Schwartz Sports on X or Twitter. And we will pick a question, and if you stump the whiz, you'll get a prize.
And everyone should know that is a private message that we
because
get.
we don't want him to see it.
No, we don't want him to see it. I
baseball clinic that is coming up on Thursday at All Sports Multi-Sport Complex, and it's being put on by the great people at Pioneer Sports. Jose Quintana, Mets pitcher, is going to be doing a baseball clinic. It's Thursday, May 23rd from 5:30 to 8 o'clock, grades K through, if I could read this correctly, 8th grade. K through 8th. K through 8th grade. Jose Quintana, Mets pitcher, and that is a great facility in Melville on Rulin Road. All Sports Multi-Sport Complex. Jose Quintana. They do a great job with these clinics. They get to take a picture with the player when they have these. I've been to a few of them before, and it's a great thing. So you'll want to, I'm trying to see what the website here is, pioniersports.leagueapps.com/events, and you can sign your kid up for this baseball clinic on Thursday. Always great for kids to learn a little something from a pro, right?
Absolutely. And it's so exciting for them to have that opportunity to because remember that he was once in their exact same shoes. When you're 7 years old, 11 years old, you really have no idea that you're going to be in the pros.
Yeah, absolutely. There's two of them I've been to before that had tremendous crowds, and there's going to be this will sell out on Thursday. Jeremy Ruckert of the Jets did one of these clinics, and of course he's being from Long Island.
Bulldog.
Absolutely. So him being the kids were going crazy because here's a guy who grew up playing football on Long Island, and now he's in the NFL playing for his hometown team. And the other one that they had recently that was outstanding, off the charts, they had Francisco Alvarez doing one, and he was great with the kids that night. So it is a wonderful event that they put on at All Sports with Pioneer Sports putting this on and bringing it. That will do it for this edition of Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. Sports Bash is sponsored by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage, Falcone Law Firm, the Marty Lyons Foundation, and Collaborate Studios. For our entire crew, I'm Peter Schwartz. Thank you for watching and listening. We're back again tomorrow. Don't forget Stump the Wiz tomorrow, 9 o'clock, right here on Sports Bash.